started here. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Eatwell Bites. I'm Julie Chavdi, Associate Director of the Health and Wellbeing Program with the Workwell Center, and your host for today. Welcome to Eatwell Bites, sponsored by the Healthy Campus Eatwell Subcommittee. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the challenging times that we are going through here at USC and beyond, and remind you that taking care of ourselves is so important, more so now than ever. During these challenging times, we need to prioritize our health and well-being, and eating nutritiously is a key component of our health with many benefits for our mind and body. So it is our hope through our Eat Well Bites series that you'll have information to take away and incorporate into your lifestyle to fuel your body with the energy and nutrients it needs to get you through these times. Today's topic is clock in, clock out, eating with purpose and precision. Fasting and time-restricted eating focus not just on what you eat, but when you eat, aligning meals with your body's natural circadian rhythms to optimize metabolism, energy, and cellular repair. By narrowing the eating window, these approaches may support weight management, reduce inflammation, and improve markers of chronic disease. This presentation explores the science, the benefits, and practical strategies behind timing your meals for maximum health benefit. Feel free today, as we go through the presentation, to use the chat or the Q&A function to ask questions, and we'll have time at the very end. On the next slide, I'd like to thank our co-leads of the Eatwell Subcommittee, Dr. Professor Carrie Kreutzer with the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology and Keck School of Medicine, and Lindsay Pine, Dining Dietitian with Hospitality, as well as members of our Eatwell Subcommittee. And on the next slide, I like to always remind our audience to feel free to stand, move, stretch anytime during today's presentation. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today. I'm welcoming back Frida Hovig, registered dietitian, clinical research coordinator, and PhD candidate in the Department of Neurology, Keck Medicine of USC. And with that, I'll turn it over to Frida.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate the kind introduction, and thank you so much for having me here again. As Julia mentioned, I'm currently pursuing my PhD in collaboration between University of Oslo in Norway, and I'm conducting my research over at Keck Medical Center in the neurology department, looking at a particular fasting intervention, which is why I'm so happy to be here today and talk about fasting, which is a very popular topic, but it could also be quite confusing. There's a lot of information, also a lot of misinformation out there. So I'm looking forward to share some science-based insight and help clarify what fasting really means and how it works. But first, I would like to ask you all, what fasts or fasting regimens have you heard of before? Please write it in the chat box. There's a lot of different terms out there. I'm sure you've heard some different types of fasting, subtypes. Intermittent fasting, yes, definitely a very common one that we'll dive into. 12 to 12, 16, 18, 3-day fasting, water fasting, time restricted, yes, exactly. So many different terms. It's pretty overwhelming. What does all these different terms mean, right? And like I usually say, not all diets are the same, and the same goes with fasts. Not all fasts are the same either. Why should we talk about fasting? Well, over the past few years, there's been a major surge in studies exploring how metabolic health impacts overall longevity. Researchers are not just looking at weight management, but also factors like insulin sensitivity, inflammation, also cellular repair, how it influences long-term health outcomes. You probably also noticed that fasting is everywhere in the media, from news articles to magazines to podcasts, social media discussions. It's become a very trendy topic, but again, also a very confusing one. There's so many different terms floating around. We have the intermittent fasting that was mentioned, prolonged fasting, alternate day fasting, 5-2 method. And it's not always clear how they differ and what does actually the evidence say to support these different types of fasting regimens. There's also still a gap between public perception, and the scientific understanding when we talk about fasting. Many people either think that fasting could be a magic fix like that, or on the other hand, may be very unsafe and unsustainable. This topic also connects directly to the wellness initiatives that Julian, Suzanne, and so many other people are doing such a great job with at USC, and also the educational efforts as well. And I think this information can empower staff and faculty to really make informed choices and help design programs that promote realistic and sustainable health habits. All right, what is fasting? Fasting simply means voluntarily going without food or drink for a period set of time. During fasting, the body naturally shifts using glucose as the main energy source to using stored fat instead. It's very important to note that fasting is different from starvation. Fasting is intentional, it's controlled. Starvation, on the other hand, is involuntary. So, two very different things. Fasting has been practiced for centuries across many cultures and religions for both spiritual but also for health reasons. The duration can vary from a few hours up to several days. Fasting has deep historical roots. In ancient Greece, fasting was promoted to be a method to support healing and to restore balance in the body. It's also been a core practice in many religious traditions. But now in the 20th century, fasting began to really be explored as therapeutic purposes. And today we're definitely seeing a very new interest driven by how research is linking fasting to longevity, but also improved metabolic health and overall well-being, which all these factors are, of course, connected to our longevity. So when I talk about fasting, I like to describe the word fasting is the big umbrella term. And then we have two subcategories within the term fasting. So on one hand, periodic fasting, which means fasting longer than 48 hours. This could typically be between 2 and 7 days. So more serious, extended type of fast. Then on the other hand, we have intermittent fasting, which is a more realistic type of fast, which means repeated cycles of fasting and eating, and it's usually less than or equal to 48 hours. We will focus on intermittent fasting for this presentation. So within intermittent fasting, we have alternate date fasting, often referred to as ADF, 24 hours fast one day, and then the next day is normal eating, and then you go back to this 24 hours fast, 24 hours of eating. Then we have time restricted eating, TRE. This is the most realistic one. Most people are able to manage moving their eating window and fasting window just slightly a few hours. So that could, for example, look like an eating window from only eating from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then you see you have a bigger window of fasting and then a shorter window of eating. Then we have 5-2 method. That means that you eat your normal way the 5 days a week, and then you choose two non-consecutive days that you are keeping it to 500 or 600 calories those 2 days. Again, we have religious and cultural types of fast as well. And then we have what's called fasting mimicking diets, which are a diet that is mimicking the effects of fasting, but you're actually allowed to eat some types of foods that is already set in a box. So you can't just pick what you're eating, but it's something that is mimicking those effects. So please write in the chat box, what is one benefit of fasting? If there is any. Maybe somebody has heard about cleanse, great, improve metabolism, minimize stress eating, decrease inflammation. Awesome. A lot of great answers. Metabolic health. Yes, there's definitely a lot of benefits that we're going to dive into. But first, I would like to just go over very simply the key physiological mechanisms of what is actually happening in the body during a fast. So I like to focus on the three main processes that are happening. We have metabolic switching, we have hormonal changes, and then we have the cellular cleanup, which is referred to as autophagy. Many ways to pronounce autophagy, but I find autophagy the best way to pronounce it. So when we stop eating for 12 to 16 hours, that's when the body starts running on stored glucose and begins to switch. I'm sorry, the body runs out of stored glucose, and now the body is switching to utilizing ketones from the fat breakdown utilization instead. So this is where fatty acids are being broken down into molecules called ketones. So if we look at this graph, so hour zero, that will be immediately right after we have eaten. Now your body is going to use almost 100% of the energy source is coming from glucose. However, with time, if we move on with the hours of fasting and looking at 35 hours after you have eaten a meal, now you're nearly using any glucose, a little bit, because your brain needs glucose. So your brain has ways of converting glucose for survival, a very long traditional or something that has developed over a long time. But we see that the ketones are super high because we've gone a long time of eating. So that's where a lot of these benefits are happening. So along with this switch, our hormones are also adjusting. We see that insulin goes down, allowing stored fat to be released. We see that glucagon rises, signaling to the liver to make new glucose. And then actually human growth hormone increases as well, which is helping preserve muscle and repair tissue. And I think a lot of people may think, oh, if I'm going to fast, I may lose my muscle. But research is actually showing the opposite, as long as you're fueling properly prior to fast and also refeeding well afterwards. Together, all these different hormonal shifts improve energy efficiency and also insulin sensitivity. So let's go to the next slide here. Research also suggests that fasting may influence several key areas of health. We have metabolic benefits. It can support weight loss, as was mentioning in the chat here, improved insulin sensitivity and blood glucose control, which really helps reduce the risk factors for metabolic disease. We have cardiovascular benefits. So a lot of studies show improvements in cholesterol levels and reduction in blood pressure, contributing to better heart health. Then we have neurological benefits. So there's emerging evidence of neuroprotective effects with potential benefits in conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. When we talk about longevity in animal studies, fasting for a long time have appeared to mimic the effects of caloric restriction, which has been linked to longer lifespan and improved cellular repair mechanisms. Many people also report experiencing greater mental clarity and focus during the fasting periods. Going back to your brain is utilizing a lot of ketones as energy source. Fasting can also help with mood stabilization, as ketones may have a more calming effect and reduce fluctuations in blood sugar that could impact mood. Lastly, fasting can also build a lot of resilience and self-regulation. It helps individuals become a lot more mindful of hunger cues and more disciplined in their eating habits. Are there risks and contraindications with fasting? Absolutely. While fasting has potential benefits, there are definitely some important risks to keep in mind. So a few to mention are hypoglycemia, so low blood sugar, fatigue, possible nutrient deficiencies, and also the risk of triggering a worsening disordered eating pattern. So fasting is not recommended for certain populations, so not in pregnant people, also individuals who have both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, unless they're under medical supervision, and also anyone with a history of eating disorder. So there's definitely essential to approach fasting with safety and also to consult a healthcare professional if somebody is considering to do a fast. How can we implement fasting safely? I always go back to consulting with the RDN, a dietitian, and the reason is because a dietitian will really take a lot of individual factors into consideration before potentially recommending it. Maybe she or he will not recommend that for a person based on their medical history, what are their health goals, what are their family situation, do they have kids? Maybe it's not realistic to just completely skip all the meals for a day if you have a family. So many different important factors, which is why I'm all about an individual recommendation. However, if somebody was going to start very simple, I like to recommend first the 12 to 12. It's kind of basic. It means if you have breakfast at 8 a.m., then you don't have a meal after 8 p.m. at night. And you would think that's easy, but actually a lot of people these days eating the first thing when you wake up and then right before you go to bed. So a lot of people are not even fasting for 12 hours. If somebody wants to try to extend the fast a little bit longer, and now, for example, that could look like 14 hours of fast and an eating window of 10 hours. So that could be have first meal at 10 a.m. and last meal by 6 p.m., for example. Staying hydrated, really important also during a fast. So I know in the beginning when I said the definition of fasting is not having any food or drink, that's just the definition of the word fasting. Most fasts will allow you, of course, also there's a lot of risk not having any water. You can have water. Sometimes you can still have non-caloric beverages, so coffee and tea. Even electrolytes can be important to supplement with as well when you are avoiding food for a long time. When you are getting back to eating again, it's actually a very critical period because that's called the refeeding period. And that's where a lot of the magic is happening because your cells are more sensitive to a lot of the uptake of the nutrients. So starting a little bit slow, whole real foods, maybe a soup with some cooked vegetables in is like a good way to kind of ease in back to the eating window after being on a fast. Having a plan. So a lot of people, if they have fasted for a while, they're like, oh, I'm going to go and have my favorite fast food meal, for example. That's not a good idea because you want to kind of ease into that feeding window again. And also monitor symptoms and adjust as needed. If somebody's feeling lightheaded, maybe it's not a good to not eat for the next few hours. Is it hard to stay compliant? Maybe there's another fast that is better for you. Is somebody losing too much weight? Maybe also you have to reconsider. So again, a lot of different individual factors to take into consideration. So in summary, fasting is a time-tested practice with scientific backing. It's not a universal solution to everything of like a health problem, but it can be used as a health tool to have in your toolbox. And it's totally most effective when it's individualized and safely implemented. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Frida, for that great overview of fasting and all the different types of diets and involved in fasting and how to do so safely and the benefits and precautions. Any questions from the group, feel free to put in a chat or the Q&A. We have a few coming in. So the first question is, what is the best way to mindfully get back to intermittent? Is there a good way to get full or stop cravings after 7 p.m.?
Great question. I like to do baby steps instead of just cold turkey. So let's say somebody normally have dinner or a snack at 8 or 9 p.m., maybe move it to an hour earlier and then slowly but surely moving it earlier and earlier. And then you have achieved the goal of whatever hours is your goal to fast.
And how to stay motivated if you're on these fasting diets?
Great question. There's definitely a lot of apps that are very motivating that really has the countdown. You can put in how many hours you want to fast and it's counting down. That could be a little motivator for some people. But the main thing that I always go back to is the why. Why are you doing this? Is it a health goal you're trying to achieve? Is there like a medical condition or some symptoms you want to improve and you have read or your healthcare professional have told you about some research that may indicate that it would be helpful to fast and reminding yourself throughout a fast of This is why I'm doing it. I can do it. And then it will be easier for each time.
Is there an app that you recommend for someone trying to track the intermittent fasting window?
Great question. I know there's so many fasts there. I don't know the name on top of my head, but I can definitely share that. I know there's a couple. I would have to get back to you about the name of those apps.
Great. And we will be sharing the link to this recording as well as the slides, and we'll include the resources that Frida provides on the apps with all of you. Few more questions. This person recently heard about circadian fasting. Is that the 12-12, or can you clarify that?
Yes, it's also fasting is also referred to the circadian fasting because it's about being in tune with the circadian rhythm. So, for example, not eating like super late or too early before the sun is out. So, I would say the 12 to 12 or the 14 and 10. Those two are the ones that are more in line with the circadian rhythm, or just looking outside when the sun comes out too.
Got it.
Another one.
And what about fasting and menopause and making sure that we meet our nutritional needs during that time?
Yes, good question. So with fasting, actually what you're eating when you're first eating becomes almost more important, in my opinion, when you're actually eating because you may have a shorter window to get all the nutrients you really need. So again, very important to have a good plan of what are you doing when you're actually eating and making sure you get enough nutrients.
And fasting longer than 24 hours, how long can someone go at a stretch? Like what is recommended for that?
Yeah, I never recommend that personally. I think if somebody's going to do that, it's safer to be at a clinic, definitely medically supervised, definitely just because of potential side effects. But it is possible to actually be months without food as long as you have water and hydration. Definitely not recommended by me, but it's amazing how long we can actually survive without food. But again, is it safe? We'll have to refer to the research.
Yeah, and I'm sure all these different kinds of diets have to factor in the benefits versus the risks and what works for your medical situation and preferences and lifestyle, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. What other questions? How would you, I know some general nutrition advice is eating every 2 or 3 hours to keep your metabolism up, or making sure that you eat breakfast first thing in the morning, versus some of the suggestions for fasting, which is kind of the opposite. How would you address different kinds of nutrition advice that people might be hearing?
Yes, good point. First of all, breakfast, I always think based on the research I've seen, breakfast is definitely very important. So I never advise to skip breakfast. It's more about maybe moving it just an hour or two, and it will still be considered a breakfast. Eating every 3 hours, I think as long as you're getting enough nutrients in each meal, I think like 3 meals a day is enough. I think if somebody has the need to snack all the time, maybe the meals are not as nutrient dense because you have that craving or the need to snack. But also here comes, it also goes back to what does your day look like? Maybe you don't have to sit down for like a real meal. Maybe the option is to have more smaller meals throughout the day or more snacking. But so I like to look at the whole picture. But it's very, again, very individualized.
Yeah, and of course, we always want to encourage healthy eating as well as exercise. So, how
Yeah.
does that fit in? Is working out recommended along with the intermittent fasting? Like, how would that fit?
Very good point. I would not recommend to do a crazy workout, a really hard workout when you haven't eaten for many, many hours. If it's like an overnight fast and workout in the morning, that's one thing, but you don't want to go several days fasted and now you're going to have a hard workout. But I always encourage movement, so like a light walk or just a little bit of stretches here and there. But I would have the workouts when around the feeding window. That's what I would recommend.
So, if someone's doing an early morning workout, and we always recommend, having something before you work
Yeah.
out, although some people don't, it just depends on your goals and your lifestyle. Um, Maybe adjusting the workout time or the eating time if it's in the morning.
Exactly. That's why, like, if I was going to recommend it out first, I like to see, okay, what does your whole day look like? When do you normally work out? When do you work? Are you in the office all day? Do you have more flexibility at home? And then try to work with that and create a very individualized plan of when does the fasting makes more sense for you to do, and also timing the workouts around when you can eat afterwards or before and things like that.
So
But
very
I would,
individualized
yeah.
plan. Yeah.
Exactly. But this is also why I would not recommend it an extended, long, prolonged fast many, many days, because now you have to give up exercise, which we know is so beneficial. So that's
Yeah.
why you have to look at all the different components.
Lots of things to consider if this is something you want to pursue. For sure, work with a professional. Yes.
Exactly.
What
Yeah.
about children? Should children fast?
I don't like to maybe put a label on it. I would rather encourage them, okay, we have had dinner, a nutrient-dense dinner, maybe a little snack after dinner or so, and now we're not eating before breakfast in the morning. Like we don't want to eat maybe in the middle of the night. Now, I don't have kids, so I can't speak really for that population too much, but I would maybe not use the word fasting too much, just to put a label on it, but just more encourage, like, okay, we've had a nutrient-dense meal now. Our bodies are good until the morning.
Yes. Great, great. Well, those are all the questions I see coming in. Frida, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. We will share the slides with all of you as well as the recording. And I will wrap us up in the last 2 or 3 minutes or so by sharing our Eat Well program. So don't forget, actually go back one slide. In partnership with hospitality, we have the Eat Well meals. So if you are on campus, look for these nutrient-rich meals on campus with the Eat Well icon. They're better for you and at UPC and HSC. We also finally launched our cookbook, and this cookbook has recipes submitted by our very own faculty and staff, highlighting our rich cultures, and we also have resources and tools in the cookbook. As well as on our website, we have over 100 videos and recipes for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks that you can look at, and various guides on how to eat balanced meals on campus, when hosting a meeting on campus, and at Trader Joe's, or if you're at USC Village, we provide nutritious recommendations for you. And the next slide just gives you a sneak peek at what's in the cookbook. We're really excited to share that the recipes were printed as they were submitted by our faculty and staff to really showcase what goes into these meals. Here you see fried rice, pineapple fried rice, a southern strawberry punch bowl cake, seared salmon over farro, Tokyo sunrise avocado toast, black bean avocado mango salad, and shrimp ceviche. So I know we're getting hungry now. And then the next slide just previews our last Eat Well Bites for the year. And this is Thursday, December 4th on food and mood. This session will explore how what you eat impacts how you feel, from energy and focus to stress. So learn how to build meals that fuel not just your body, but your brain and your mood. And the presenter is Nick Zarati from Athletics. And finally, our very last slide is just to say thank you and ask you to please fill out the evaluation form. We'll also email that out. And if you are in the Vitality Health Program, we will be submitting points for you for being here, as well as if you watch the video. So nothing you need to do on your end. And with that, we're going to pick our lucky raffle winner. So if you can stop sharing, Frida, our intern Myra is going to spin the wheel and select a winner to receive a $25 Amazon gift card. And we will be in touch with the winner to coordinate that. All right, thank you for entering the raffle, everyone. And let's see who our lucky winner is. Brittany Beasley. Congratulations, Brittany. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Be well, and we will see you next month. And thank you again, Frida, for your time and expertise.
Thank you
Thanks
so
all.
much.